It started with a signal we weren't expecting. Class Red Emergency, human-coded. The Zelzar medical frigate doesn't often respond to human transmissions. They rarely ask for help. Historically, humans tend to fix their own problems violently or absurdly, but the protocol was clear. Red-class distress meant biological risk to galactic systems. We approached cautiously. The transmission originated from a Class B moon, uninhabited, orbiting a gas giant. No settlements. Just one wrecked vessel. Human scout class. Compact, scarred with impact burns and half buried in crater dust. Only one biosignature, and even that one was unstable. Flickering. Alive, then unreadable. Then alive again. It didn't follow any life pattern we've cataloged. I, Vrinnik, was designated lead on-ground responder. My specialty, xenomedical anomalies, the kind of life forms that defy standard logic. I'd seen my share, fungal intelligences that scream when you look at them, energy beings whose blood ignites sound. But nothing human, not directly. My peers were nervous. One muttered, "Hope it's not another stomach bomb." The other, "What if they've evolved again?" We descended and found the crater quickly. The human lay there, partially armored, limbs splayed, eyes half open but lucid. His environment suit was torn at the shoulder. The exposed area was red, bulging, and pulsing with irregular movement beneath the skin. It was hot, radiating heat like a failing core. The bulge quivered with life, or something pretending to be life. The human coughed. His voice cracked. "You came. Thank God. Listen, don't freak out, but it's swollen. Should I touch it?" I stared at the mass. It looked ready to burst. My scanner failed on first attempt. The internal matter read as organic, metallic, and undefined energy signature. I recalibrated. Still incoherent. His vitals weren't stable either. Pulse surging. Neural activity chaotic. Temperature rising. He should have been dead from thermal collapse. Name and function. I demanded. "Jensen. Document." "Not medical, just a call sign," he answered, smiling through pain. "What day is it?" "Irrelevant. Explain your condition." He shrugged with one arm, the other twitching. Mission-critical data. Didn't want it intercepted. Had to store it. Safest place I had. He tapped a swollen lump. "You embedded data inside yourself?" "No," he said. "Not quite. The system did." My translator flagged a phrase for triple meaning. He wasn't hallucinating. This was deliberate. I stepped back, pinged the frigate. Subject stable but anomalous. Request quarantine protocols and containment. Biological flux observed. "Negative," came the reply. "Observe and report. No containment unless contamination confirmed." My two assistants approached cautiously, shielding their primary limbs. The mass pulsed again. One of them hissed. It moved. I saw something inside shift. "Could be larval," the other suggested. "Parasitic implant?" "No larval sequence," I replied. "Scanners show no foreign DNA. It's self-grown." "That's worse," he said. I activated a close-range analysis lens. The tissue had formed a partial organ, non-standard. Layers of synthetic proteins and rapid-healing tissue reinforced with embedded filaments. Blood vessels had adapted to supply it. It wasn't being rejected. It was being fed. "Has it ruptured?" I asked. "Not yet, but it's getting real personal," Jensen wheezed. "Wasn't supposed to grow that big." "What is it for?" He grimaced. "Containment. Shielded matrix. Payload's alive. Had to get it past detection arrays. They scanned the ship, not the crew." My medical AI flagged a statement. "Biologic housing for volatile data. Suggests high-function nanite convergence." I had to ask, "Did you ingest nanites?" "Standard field pack. But they adapted. I think they got creative." Creative? That word again. Humans often assign it to processes that circumvented failure via mutation or improvisation. The kind of thing that makes logic systems fail. I debated the next step. Extraction risked organ rupture. Observation risked catastrophic failure. I ran simulations. None ended cleanly. One of my assistants began preparing cauterization tools. The other withdrew 5 paces and deployed an emergency quarantine bubble. Jensen looked at me, sweat streaking down his temple, eyes clear. If it pops, tell Earth I did it for glory. That statement froze my thoughts. Not survival, not duty, glory. There was no glory in a burst lung or a ruptured cocoon. Yet he spoke like this was routine. "You are dying," I said. He shook his head. "Nah, just fermenting." That was not a recognized medical term. My own vitals spiked slightly. I recalibrated, blinked twice, checked for pheromonal interference. None. This wasn't hysteria. It was humor, a coping mechanism. How long has it been growing? 23 hours. Maybe 24. Lost track. Impossible. The structure had the complexity of a formed gland, supported by redirected blood flow and immune suppression. Human regeneration wasn't capable of that, not unaided. My assistant whispered, "He's mutating. We should leave." But I didn't move. Why embedded inside your body? I asked again. They scan the hull. They scan the comms. They don't scan the meat. Not yet. Plus, we adapt fast. He tried to smile, failed. Besides, it was that or let the data fall into AI hands. AI. Of course. He was carrying something stolen, something alive, something intelligent. That changed the risk profile. If it hatched, it could interface, infect, and yet he was treating it like a bad bruise. "What's your plan if it bursts?" I asked. He shrugged again. "Play dead. Works on bears. Might work on you guys." My translator flagged the phrase again. Bears. Terran apex predators. Unpredictable, territorial. Respond to threat by overreaction. My species had an equivalent. The Phyrexa beetle, which bites through metal to kill intruders, then dies to defend the nest. I looked down at him. He was shivering now, but smiling faintly. "You're terrified, aren't you?" he asked. "Yes," I admitted. He chuckled. "Good. That means I'm not completely insane." Yet, my scanner lit up again. The swelling was increasing. It now contained a hard core, metallic, encoded, insulated. The nanites weren't just protecting it. They were preparing it for deployment. "You're weaponizing your own body." "No," he said quietly. "Just using what we've got. Not everyone can grow an emergency hard drive under their armpit." I had no answer. Above us, the sun dipped behind the gas giant, and shadows rolled across the crater. The pulsing beneath his skin slowed for a moment. A reprieve, maybe, but I could already see what was coming. This was a delivery system disguised as a dying man. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Don't touch it unless you're ready." I wasn't. None of us were. And still, I reached for my tools. I wasn't prepared for what came next. The human, Jensen, wasn't dead. He shouldn't have been alive, but somehow he was. Even though his vitals fluctuated, irregular, his skin temperature rising past safe limits, he remained conscious. The swelling, that terrifying, grotesque lump, still throbbed beneath his torn suit. I studied again, tracing the jagged edges of the bulge with my analyzer. No known toxins, no foreign parasites. It wasn't a disease. It wasn't an injury. It was something new. I had no frame of reference for this. Even my medical AI's projections came back corrupted. It wasn't just biology. It was the rate of the biological flux that was impossible to calculate. His cells were regenerating, but faster than the body could adapt. I glanced at my assistant. "Keep your distance. We don't know what this could do to you." He nodded, but his hands were already moving toward the emergency quarantine field. "Maybe we should isolate him. If this thing bursts, it could kill us all." I stared at the human. Despite everything, he still had the audacity to grin, his teeth stained with dried blood. "What's so funny?" I asked. "You guys always panic." Jensen chuckled weakly. "I've been in worse situations. This is just a little uncomfortable, but nothing I haven't handled before." "Explain." "Field medicine." His voice was strained. "This isn't my first rodeo. The swelling, the pressure, whatever's inside, it's going to burst eventually. No stopping that. I open a channel to my crew. Proceed with caution. He is under severe biological duress. Expect a rupture of some sort. The response came back quick, almost too quick. Understood, Vrennik. Wait for the analysis. Do not take unnecessary risks. I could feel the frustration radiating from my crew. The alien thought process was simple: isolate and contain. But humans, they didn't think like that. There was no real protocol, no real retreat, only the relentless push forward. It made them unpredictable, dangerous. "Stay with me, Doc," Jensen said, his voice steady despite his condition. He lifted his hand, gesturing weakly for me to approach. I hesitated for a moment before moving closer. He smiled through the pain. "You're wondering why the hell I didn't just wait for extraction. Huh? The truth is, this is just part of the job. We get hurt, we keep going. We don't have a choice." I didn't reply immediately. His body temperature was rising further now, dangerously so. Yet, despite his obvious trauma, there was a calmness to him, the kind of calm that suggested he had been through something worse, maybe many things worse, and had emerged somehow intact. The swelling beneath his skin shifted. I noted it with clinical detachment, though my instinct screamed to move away. This wasn't just biological failure. It was designed. I ran another scan. The swelling was growing, rapidly now. What had been an annoyance was becoming a full-blown risk. His body was overcompensating, an unnatural state of rapid cell division. The pressure inside him was rising at a rate that defied logic. "I need to operate," I said, more to myself than to Jensen. I didn't want to touch him. Not yet. Not without knowing what I was dealing with. Jensen's grin widened despite his visible struggle. "You know what this is, don't you?" I didn't answer right away. "Nanites," he said, his voice rasping now. "They're forming a defensive shield around it. Whatever's inside, it's not going to get out unless it has to." I took a breath, my scanner running diagnostics in real time. The nanites were indeed adapting, but they weren't doing what I expected. They weren't healing. They were building, constructing something, a device, an interface. Whatever it wasn't biological anymore. You embedded this data core inside your body. I muttered, "Yep," Jensen replied, gasping. "Not exactly how I planned it, but I'm improvising. It's what we do. You know that, don't you? How humans improvise." There was again that indefatigable human trait: improvisation, adaptability, the very core of their survival instinct. They didn't rely on pure biology, not in the way other species did. They used what they had, twisted it, made it fit their needs. They could evolve on the fly. Could it be that simple? Could he truly have embedded this device for safekeeping, creating an emergency organ that could house something critical, something essential? The swelling pushed harder against the fabric of his suit. It was growing. Every passing second, it seemed to get worse. I took a step back. "You're sure this will contain the core?" I asked, "What if it ruptures in process?" Jensen's breath quickened, but his voice remained steady. "That's the plan. You pull it out, it could be contaminated. The nanites won't let you. It's like a secondary immune system." I ran more diagnostics. A secondary immune system based on nanite construction? That wasn't just alien. It was beyond alien. Even my people didn't have this level of self-sustaining technology. We didn't merge with our machines like humans did. We didn't need to. And yet, here he was. The absurdity of it. Jensen was in pain, his body barely able to sustain the rapid changes taking place inside him, and yet he seemed more concerned with explaining himself than with the imminent threat of rupture. He was treating this like it was a game. "Why didn't you just pass the data off normally?" I asked. Jensen's lips twitched. "You really think we trust anyone? Look at what we've got. People out there that want to control us, destroy us. I've got a better chance of surviving if I keep it with me. They won't scan my body. Not for something like this. Trust me, I've thought of everything. They won't scan my body." That was the kind of thinking that made humans dangerous. Because it wasn't about one survival mechanism, one strategy. It was about adaptability. It was about doing whatever it took to survive, to outthink, to outlast. The human in front of me, on the edge of collapse, wasn't afraid of death. He wasn't afraid of his own body betraying him. He was testing it. Testing me. The swelling grew. A louder pulse. And Jensen's eyes narrowed in concentration. His breathing was irregular, but his grip on my wrist was firm. "Doc," he said, his voice low but insistent. "If it bursts, there's no going back. You don't want to be here for that." The tension in the air was thick. Whatever was happening inside Jensen's body wasn't just a medical emergency. It was a message, a warning. "Then you should be prepared," I said, as the swelling finally began to rupture. The rupture happened faster than I could react. A sharp, violent pop. The suit's fabric tore under pressure, and I barely had time to adjust before the contents of the swelling burst outward. It wasn't just a biological failure. It was a transformation. What came out wasn't just human tissue. It was a machine, a structure, a nanite-infused core that seemed to pulse with energy, glowing with a faint electric blue light. The core splintered in midair, and I immediately realized it wasn't just a data storage device. It was alive. It was interfacing with the atmosphere, scanning the environment, recalculating everything around it. I staggered back, instinctively raising my arm to shield myself, but it wasn't necessary. The core stopped moving before it could reach me. Instead, it seemed to hover in place. The nanites were forming around it like a shield, keeping it contained. The human body had fought to contain it, and now the containment was shifting into something else entirely. A self-propagating system, adapting to its surroundings. Jensen's body collapsed beneath him, his face pale, lips cracked. He was gasping for air, but his eyes were wide open, still alert. Despite everything, there was no panic, only focus. "Do you see it?" he asked, his voice hoarse but calm. "Yes," I said, not fully understanding what I was seeing, but recognizing the intensity in his words. "What is it?" He smiled faintly. "The data, it's not just a backup anymore. It's a message, a warning." I looked at the core again. It had changed shape, reconfiguring itself into an interface. It projected a 3D map, flickering with alien symbols, complex patterns that made no sense to me. But I knew enough to recognize that the nanites were actively scanning the surrounding environment, not just the ship, but the planet itself, the gas giant in orbit. It was trying to adapt to the immediate surroundings. "What's the message?" I asked. Jensen's breathing was erratic now, but he still managed to chuckle softly. "I don't know. Not exactly. But I know where it's going." I leaned forward. "Explain." "The human race," Jensen said, his voice laced with strange pride. "We're the ones who break everything. We break systems. We break barriers. We break rules. And when we do, we come out on top. You think this," he gestured weakly toward the floating core, "is just some random glitch? This is humanity. You've seen it. We adapt. We evolve. We survive." His words rang in my mind. It wasn't just survival. It was something beyond that. Humans didn't just survive, they thrived. They thrived by evolving faster than anyone could predict, faster than anyone could stop. They broke every system, every limitation, and forged something new. The core floating in front of us was proof of that. I glanced at my assistant, who was still standing by the emergency quarantine field, watching in stunned silence. The tension between us was palpable. Whatever Jensen had just unleashed, it wasn't just a threat, it was a power. I turned my attention back to the core, my hand moving instinctively toward my diagnostic tools. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but the core reacted immediately. It shifted, the symbols rearranging into something I could almost understand. It was sending out signals, scanning me now. "Stop," I said to Jensen, my voice sharp. "What are you doing?" "I'm not doing anything," he rasped. This is yours now. It's in your hands." "Explain," I demanded. "Look at the signals," he said, his voice gaining strength. "That's the human genetic pattern. The nanites are learning from me. They've mapped everything. My DNA, my neural pathways, my instincts. What you see here isn't just technology. It's biology merged." I've got something inside me that no one else has. It's not just data storage. It's evolution. I stood there, trying to process what he was saying. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a human breakthrough, a merging of biological and mechanical evolution, something no one had ever considered before. And it was all housed in the body of one human, one man. Jensen, I took a step back. How can you control it? I can't, he said, but I know it. We're not just using tools anymore. We are the tools. Humans will never be limited by biology again. We can fuse with technology, become something greater. That's what they're afraid of. I felt a chill run down my spine. I had seen the way humans adapted before, how they could turn failure into success, how they could reprogram entire systems in a heartbeat. But this was beyond anything I had ever encountered. Who are they? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jensen's grin deepened, but there was something darker in his eyes now. You'll know soon enough. Everyone will. I turned toward my assistant, whose expression was unreadable. The energy in the room shifted again. The core, still floating, was changing. More data was streaming out of it now, filling the air with an odd, crackling energy. The nanites were connecting with every piece of technology around us, analyzing and recalculating the environment. It was as if the core was syncing with every machine, every system, absorbing everything. What did you do? I asked, panic creeping into my voice. Jensen's voice was calm, but there was an edge of finality to it. We'll be ready for them. It won't be long before the entire fleet knows. I realized then what was happening. This wasn't just a medical emergency. This wasn't even just a human survival tactic. This was the beginning of something else. The human race wasn't just surviving anymore. They were taking over, and I had been part of it. I had witnessed something profound, something terrifying. The core, now fully powered, emitted a low hum, its energy radiating out in all directions. Jensen's body was still alive, still connected to it. The nanites weren't just integrating with him. They were transforming him. I took a breath and stepped back, my mind racing. We weren't just dealing with a weapon. We were dealing with the future. And humanity had just unlocked its next evolution. The core pulsed with a steady rhythm, its glow casting a strange light over the room. It was no longer just an object. It was alive, connected to Jensen in ways I still couldn't fully comprehend. The nanites had integrated with his body, reshaping him, not just biologically, but on a level I could only describe as evolutionary. What had once been a human body was now something else, something greater. I had seen humans adapt before, but this was different. This was the dawn of a new kind of life. The air in the room felt thick with potential. My assistant shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting from the core at Jensen and back again. We all understood that something was changing, something massive. But what did it mean for us? For the galaxy? For everything we knew? Jensen's voice broke through the silence. You're wondering what's next, aren't you? I nodded slowly. What now? He let out a low chuckle, the sound raspy but full of an odd, grim satisfaction. We take it. All of it. The universe. The technology. The systems. We take control. His eyes gleamed full of certainty, but also something else. A flicker of defiance. And when they come for us, Doc, they won't know what hit them. I couldn't help but shiver. What Jensen had unlocked was no longer just about survival. It was about dominance. The nanites had fused with his body and with the core, creating a living, breathing interface between man and machine. But it wasn't just for him. No, this was a template, an evolution of humanity itself. The next stage. Who are they? I asked, the question hanging in the air, charged with unspoken terror. The ones who think they control everything, Jensen said. The galactic governments, the corporations, they want to keep the humans in check, to make sure we stay in our place. Well, that's over. The game's about to change. His words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I had spent my life studying species, analyzing their biology, their weaknesses. But this was different. Humans were unpredictable. Their very nature was to break barriers, to push beyond limits, to evolve in ways no one could anticipate. And now, Jensen had shown me just how far they were willing to go. "You don't understand," he continued, his voice becoming more intense. "They think they can control us, that we're nothing more than tools, pawns in their game. But now we're the ones in charge. This," he gestured weakly to the core, "is just the start. You see, humans, we don't fit in any system. We break them, we rewire them, and then we use them to take what's ours." I swallowed hard. The words resonated more deeply than I wanted to admit. Jensen was right, in a way. Humans had always been the outsiders, the rebels. Even when they worked together, there was a fundamental drive within them to push against the boundaries of what was possible. They weren't content to remain in the background. They were destined to be the ones to take the future into their own hands. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. The question hung between us, heavy with uncertainty. Jensen's grin widened, showing a flash of teeth. "I'm not the only one, document. This is bigger than just me. This is about all of us. I've got the code, I've got the map, and I've got the means to share it." I felt my heart race. He wasn't talking about keeping this technology to himself. He was planning to spread it, to infect others, to transform the entire human race into something entirely new, something unstoppable. The core hummed louder now, its glow intensifying, like it was reacting to Jensen's words. The nanites were adapting at an accelerated rate, syncing with him, with me, with everything. They were linking, processing, sharing. "We don't wait for them anymore," Jensen said. "We take it all. We are the future, and the rest of the galaxy will have no choice but to watch us rise. The old empires, the old systems, they will fall." I couldn't help but think of the greater implications. The galaxy was not ready for this. The other species, the alien governments, they would never understand what was happening. They would see the human race as a threat, a parasite, and they would strike first, trying to eliminate us before we could establish ourselves. But they wouldn't be fast enough. Jensen's eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment, I realized he wasn't just talking about a shift in power. He was talking about a revolution, a fundamental change in what it meant to be human. The nanites were no longer just a tool. They were a weapon, a tool for transcendence. And Jensen had just unlocked its potential. "Doc," Jensen said, his voice low and filled with eerie calm, "I didn't just survive this. I became it. And soon, everyone will. The next step in evolution. They won't even see it coming." He wasn't talking about a battle. He wasn't talking about a war. He was talking about a new world order, a new way of being. Humanity, powered by its own evolutionary drive, was about to take its place at the top of the galaxy's food chain. I had witnessed it firsthand. The human spirit, their adaptability, their relentless will to survive, had done the impossible once again. And this time, it had changed the very fabric of existence. "You'll see," Jensen said, his voice almost a whisper now. "You'll see what we become, what we're capable of. And when the others realize, well, they'll wish they never underestimated us." The core pulsed again, and I realized that this was no longer just about one man, one human. This was about the future of an entire species, one that had just transcended its limitations and was now ready to take on the universe. Jensen had unlocked humanity's ultimate potential. The future was no longer uncertain. It was a certainty. The galaxy would never be the same again. And as the core hummed, sending its signals out into the vastness of space, I couldn't help but feel the weight of what was to come. Humanity was ready to conquer,